who is MP, Labour MP, Thangam Debbonaire, and she is the MP for Bristol West, and has held various roles, and I know that she rejoined the frontbench as a whip in October 2016. And the reason she's here today is because she co-chairs the All-Party Parliamentary Group, the APPG, on refugees, and also co-chairs the APPG on Eritrea. So when the Eritrean community wants to get its voice and its concerns heard, this is the woman that we need to speak to. So if you could come and speak, that would be great.
So that wasn't intimidating at all.
Thank you, Michaela.
First of all, it's a real honour to follow Michaela, and I'm also grateful to Eritrea Focus and to the Institute for Commonwealth Studies and to James in particular for his help. But for everyone here, I do feel slightly intimidated, because as politicians, and particularly chairs of all-party parliamentary groups, we're rarely there because we're an expert. I mean, there are a couple of all-party groups that I'm involved with which are related to things on which I have expertise. But this is not one of them. I'm in the room where the experts are. You are the people who are going to help plan how Eritrea gets from here to here. I will be incredibly proud in years to come to say that I was in this room at the start of these 2 days. And if I manage to sneak out of Parliament over the course of the next 2 days to nip up and try and come back and join you for some of the programme, I'll be even more thrilled. Because building democracy, building a peace, is extraordinarily challenging, and nothing could be more important. I was reminded of this yesterday when in Parliament we marked the tragic murder of a journalist in Northern Ireland, a young woman called Shere McKee, whose funeral will be today. And this was a real reminder for me, because Northern Ireland is the civil war that happened in my country, in my youth. And the peace came in 1997, and we hoped that we were beyond this now. And a journalist said this morning on the Today programme that peace making isn't the same as peace building. The sustainability of peace takes longer. And Lyra's murder was a really stark reminder of that. But also the way that communities are trying to come together around her funeral. So her funeral will be led by a priest and a Protestant minister. That is part of how we build a just peace. So I'm speaking of this because I know a bit about building peace in Northern Ireland. And again, I'm not an expert in Northern Ireland. But an all-party parliamentary group. What we are is we are the parliamentary wing of the UK parliamentary wing of your work. We are your servants, as well as your representatives. It is my job not to know everything that you know, I couldn't possibly, but to be there to hear what you have to say and to try and reflect that and represent it in Parliament. Because we get one voice in Parliament because of being members of Parliament, because of being elected, and you have others, but the expertise is here in this room, and I feel incredibly privileged to be co-chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Eritrea. All-party groups mean what they say, and this is my small offering for today's and tomorrow's work, is the phrase all-party. Because in my experience of this democracy, and heaven knows it's being well criticised at the moment, but in my experience of it, one of its strengths is that there is such a thing, and it's a constitutional thing, called Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition. So, the loyal opposition. We are loyal to the monarch, which is kind of weird for me, but it's still I think what it represents is that we're loyal to the idea of a nation. And we're there as the opposition, and it is our constitutional duty to scrutinise the executive, to criticise them, to challenge them. And this is what the thing I wanted to bring to you is because Michaela mentioned that I'm a whip. That's for another day, another story. But I'm part of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition's frontbench. I'm part of the challenge to the government. And I think that's a really important part of democracy. Neil Kinnock tells a long tale, who's a former leader of the Labour Party, tells a very long, very eloquent tale about why it's important, and it involves going to a country in which there is no opposition. And I think that's something, when you're talking about building a democracy, I'll be really interested to see how that pans out for Eritrea, what you think is relevant for Eritrea. And I want you to tell me what needs to be said in Parliament. I want you to tell me and challenge me when there are things that need to be done. Conferences always go over time if we're not careful, so I'm not going to speak for any longer, except to say that I welcome the fact that every paper is going to be published, and I'm looking forward to reading all of those, because unfortunately, like members of Parliament do, I'm going to have to sneak to the back of the room and sneak off quite soon, because I have to be back in Parliament within the hour. And I look forward to reading those, but I would like everyone here, all delegates, to think about, in your role as participants in this exciting 2 days, how are you going to be part of building a democratic and just peace for Eritrea? Because that matters so much for the world. As I mentioned, in other countries are still not yet finished in their building of democratic, sustainable peace. And you are part of that. And it will always have been an honour for me to have been with you today. Thank you.